Since succeeding Jean Todt in 2021, the current FIA president Mohammed Ben Sulayem has been at the center of controversy after disagreement after argument, constantly interfering with Formula One. While his constant appearances at F1 races and his outspoken attempts to change the sport were annoying and angered fans, they were mostly just annoying to begin with. As his presidency has gone on though, it has descended into a dictatorship. The removal of proper checks of his power was a dangerous move, but then expelling FIA members from meetings for not signing suffocating NDAs has finally pushed the organization's members over the edge. The mutiny against the president of Formula One's rulemakers has finally begun, and today I'll bring you all the details and how you can get involved, so don't go anywhere. Mohammed Ben Sulayem's, or MBS from here on, control of the FIA has taken a dictatorial turn over the past year. Before Christmas, the FIA president introduced changes to the FIA statutes, which affected the auditing and ethics committees, whose job it is to ensure the organization runs to its own rules and standards. The financial auditing and ethics committees of the FIA used to work separately from the FIA president, allowing them the freedom to raise issues against MBS if needed. The changes remove that freedom though, requiring the audit and ethics committees to report directly to the FIA president and the president of the FIA Senate rather than to the wider Senate. The revisions would also remove the power of the audit committee to investigate financial issues independently of the FIA president. The changes essentially gave the president of the FIA the power to act as he wished without the fear of the ethics or auditing committees questioning what he was doing. Then there was the mass sackings of stewarding staff and senior FIA officials. When Tim Mayer, a senior steward of 15 years, was fired at the end of November, he said the FIA was running out of people to do those jobs. Stewarding, after all, is a voluntary role, and there are only so many people willing to dedicate a significant portion of their free time every year to travel the world and work at the F1 racetracks. Janet Tan, the deputy Formula 2 race director, and F1 race director Niels Wittich also left the FIA in a 2-week period that saw the organization lose a number of high-level staff. As senior members of staff within the organization disappeared and the checks on MBS's running of the FIA dissolved, his crusade against drivers swearing caused yet more uproar. The World Rally Championship drivers unionized after French driver Adrien Fourmeau was fined €10,000 for swearing in a TV interview when describing his previous stage at Rally Sweden. That was the first such fine for a driver under the new rules introduced over the winter, which could see drivers banned for up to a month for 3 offenses. The newly formed World Rally Drivers Alliance wrote an open letter to the FIA president, saying the punishment for misdemeanors such as swearing had reached an unacceptable level. Throughout all of this though, the actual members of the FIA have been relatively quiet. See, the FIA is made up of its member countries. The national motorsport organizations have elected officials, who then become a part of the FIA Senate, helping govern international motorsport. However, when key figures in Formula One's governing body were barred from a meeting of the organization's World Motorsport Council on Wednesday in a dispute with President Mohammed Ben Sulayem, a line was crossed for them. Robert Reid, the FIA's Deputy President for Sport, and David Richards, the UK's representative to the FIA and the chairman of Motorsport UK, were among those denied access after refusing to sign a non-disclosure agreement which would have forbid members from discussing matters pertinent to the FIA outside official meetings. Now, David Richards has threatened the FIA president with legal action if he does not address the concerns with his presidency. In an open letter that is available for free in the Motorsport UK magazine, Richards said that the FIA's actions under President Mohammed Ben Sulayem are in breach of its own statutes, and that its actions fall short of gold standard levels of transparency, accountability, and integrity in sports governance. It is a very strongly worded letter that points out the hypocrisy in MBS's presidency, the worrying issues with his removal of transparency from the FIA, and his distinct failure to abide by the messages that he ran for president on. Before I take a dive into the letter and talk about what Richards is doing to challenge MBS's leadership, if you enjoy the content we bring you and want to catch all the news from the upcoming F1 season, then make sure to press the like button and subscribe to F1 Reverse. Thanks a lot, it really is appreciated. So let's get straight to the big bit, which is, what is the head of UK motorsport threatening to do? At the end of his letter, after speaking about transparency, accountability, and integrity in governance, He says, "It's therefore beholden on us to demand the same values of our governing body, the FIA. These actions by the FIA are in breach of their own statutes. As a result, we have informed the FIA that unless they address the issues we've raised, we will be engaging in further legal action." That legal action has already begun. Richard says earlier in the letter, "Our Motorsport UK lawyers, along with our French legal counsel, have challenged the FIA on their actions by setting out a clear set of questions that the FIA leadership needs to answer." What could the legal action become? Well, the FIA is based in France and has to abide by French law, so it must be assumed that the endgame would be a legal challenge against MBS through the French legal system. What that could eventually look like, I don't know, but there will be a legal process and laws in France that will allow a legal challenge against the FIA president if he's found to be breaching the laws of the organization he runs. In the same way that FIFA was purged during the Sepp Blatter era by a legal challenge from US federal prosecutors, the FIA can also be challenged. Such processes take time though. The case against FIFA took a number of years to have an impact on the organization. If the challenges against MBS do devolve into a legal battle, then nothing will happen before the FIA presidential election that happens later this year. An election in which MBS is currently the only candidate. So what else does Richard say in his letter? Why does he describe the banning of FIA members from the World Motorsport Council as the final straw? Well, Richard says that he had supported Ben Sulayem initially because Ben Sulayem had promised to be a hands-off president who would be non-executive and delegate the day-to-day running of the FIA to a professional executive team, with the appointment of an empowered and capable CEO to run the FIA to professional standards and full transparency of actions and the highest standards of sporting governance. His commitment to being a hands-off president was reasserted after Formula One's team bosses complained about him being overly involved in the sport. His over-involvement peaked when he got a Fernando Alonso penalty overturned at the 2023 Saudi Arabian Grand Prix, promoting Alonso to a podium finish. An FIA investigation into that concluded that the penalty had not been overturned by MBS. Paolo Bazzari, the ex-head of the FIA's ethics committee who initially began the investigation into MBS overturning that penalty, was later fired from his position within the FIA. Later in the letter, Richards highlighted how MBS had not run the FIA in the way he said he would during his campaign, and pointed to times that the FIA president had brought the organization into disrepute. These have included MBS's views on women, his approach to Formula One, changes to the statutes reducing accountability, the dismissal of a number of senior figures, and rule changes regarding F1 drivers' public behavior. He said the situation at the FIA has progressively worsened, pointing to the firing or resignation under an opaque cloud of several senior FIA figures. He added, "The scope of the audit and ethics committees has been severely limited and now lacks autonomy from the authority of the president, while the UK representative, who challenged certain matters, was summarily removed along with the chair of the audit committee." He said the final straw that led to his letter was being asked to sign a new confidentiality agreement that I regarded as a gagging order. Richards also revealed the details of the NDA that the Senate members had to sign before being allowed to attend the World Motorsport Council meeting last week. He says that the FIA, at its own discretion, could decide if anyone breached the terms of the new confidentiality agreement with no process or frame of reference, and there was an immediate fine of €50,000 for any breach and a threat of undisclosed damages. He added, "The construction of this new confidentiality agreement does not comply with the statutes of the FIA and contradicts the promise of transparent governance we voted for. I therefore asked that we debate the matter at the World Motorsport Council, which was just days away, rather than having it forced upon us as a condition of attendance. My request, along with those of a few other members who shared our views, was denied, and we were barred from attending the meeting. This was in total breach of the FIA statutes that require all elected members be given full access to meetings." So what happens now? Well, we wait for either the FIA to respond or a legal challenge to begin. Hopefully, other national motorsport bodies will join Richard's stand against the FIA president, adding weight to the pressure against MBS. If you're unhappy with how Ben Sulayem has run Formula One's governing body and the governing body of the majority of national and international motorsport, and want to do something about it, then you can get in contact with your national motorsport body to express your concerns. For the US, where I know many of our viewers are from, That is the Automobile Competition Committee for the United States. For those of you from the UK, that's Motorsport UK. And if you want to find your FIA-sanctioned national motorsport organization, then you'll find a list of them in the pinned comment. You can help make the FIA, and as a consequence F1, better. Until next time, drive safe and bye for now.